Hello, Junior Naturalist, and welcome to Huddart Park, which is located in very sunny Woodside today. If you are a Girl Scout, I'm known as Pinenut because I love the forest. Today we're going to be hiking the Redwood Trail, and it's a great one for families to revisit because there's all kinds of posts that label the trees and the plants so you can come back here with your parents at a later date. So we're going to start with taking a walk with me. If you are looking around at a forest, we know that the Native Americans that lived here had no Safeway. They had no Walgreens or CVS. So today what we're going to do is we're going to be looking at plants and animals, well, mostly plants right now, and we're going to be putting them into three groups. The three groups are going to be something that is edible, something that is useful, or something that is medicinal. Medicinal is medicine. So we're going to go ahead and try and put every plant into something like that. Every plant that we stop at. I'm going to try and pick the most pertinent ones. I stopped here today because this shrub right here, which is usually a bush growing up, is actually our state shrub. The state shrub usually gets a little berry on it, but only in December. What is our state shrub, you're asking? Most of you know our state flower, the poppy, but not too many people know our state shrub or bush. This is called the toyon bush, and it has the serrated. Serrated means kind of knife-like, sharp edges, and parking lot venation is what I call it because it comes out like little parking spots for a car. It is very, very drought resistant. It has a coating, a waxy coating on the top of it. And this waxy coating helps protect it and keep its water inside so it doesn't lose the water that it starts with. So it's a great one for erosion so that the dirt doesn't erode away. Now, if you're taking this walk with me, you should have gotten in your box, in your take-home box, a sheet of paper that looks like this. It has local native plants and animals, so this side would be the plant side, and this will be the animal side. So I am carrying papers today. Okay, so you're going to take that out, and as we go along, I will tell you where the plant is located on your sheet. I will count by rows. We're starting with plants, so I'll count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? So this was toyon. So toyon, go ahead and get your papers out, and you can go ahead and circle toyon. Toyon was also called Christmas berry or hollyberry, and it belongs in chaparral. So the forest is divided up into river areas, rocky areas, grasslands, forest areas. So the chaparral is ones that have small leaves, like in this area right here. And the small leaves means that it's going to lose less water, so it's more drought resistant, and it can live in warmer, drier places. It is called California holly or Christmas berry because the berries come out in December. And in December, you get a bright red berry. There were so many of these down in Los Angeles in the hills that it is reported anyway that the city of Hollywood was named after the California holly or toyon. Okay, so under edible, the berries, they can be cooked and they can be mashed and added with water, and the Native Americans used to use that as a refreshing drink. Useful, the berries are eaten by many, many birds. When they come out, they're bright red, so they attract the animals. But before they become berries, they're flowers, and the flowers attract butterflies, insects, and so they're really good pollinators. Okay, last but not least, medicinal, also used by the Ohlone. The Indians used the leaves as a tea to cure stomach ailments. All right, so walk along with me and let's go. I guess we're going to stop here because this is such a beautiful example. This, as most of you know, is poison oak. You're going to want to take a close look at this because it's all over and this can make you very itchy. Poison oak has 3 leaves. Every place you look, it's going to be in leaves of 3. So we've got leaves of 3 there, leaves of 3 up here. So if you get into poison oak, you are not going to be sick, you're not going to die. What you're going to get is a terrible rash. Okay, so it's nothing to be, super frightened of, but it is something that you want to stay away from. Only in the summertime, as it is now, you can see that it turns a bright red, which makes it much more noticeable so that you can get in less trouble. It is not the only plant that has leaves of three. So if you don't know which one it is, the saying is leaves of three, let it be. When in doubt, go about. And we'll see soon that if it's hairy, meaning that if it has thorns, it's a berry. So poison oak does not have a berry. Now I told you we're going to do edible, useful, and medicinal. This one is definitely not edible to anyone except for deer. It grows a green berry that the deer absolutely love. And so they will take it and they will eat it, and then scat happens, deer poop, and we end up with poison oak all over the forest because now we have a fertilized seed. So what else could it be good for? Well, the Native Americans, they were not allergic to this. They had built up their immunity so they could walk through it and nothing would happen to them. They would not get poison oak. So what's going to happen is that they would take the biggest leaves and they would wrap their fish in it. They would dig a hole in the ground, they would put hot rocks at the bottom, they would put their wrapped fish in on top of the hot rocks and cover it up to cook it, and that would steam the fish that they had caught beautifully. So yes, they used poison oak leaves because they couldn't catch poison oak. Last but not least, it also has another use. Those berries, when they're mashed, create a black dye, and the black dye, when rubbed into the skin over scratches, will create tattooing. So the Native Americans tattooed themselves actually using poison oak oils, which you would never want to do. Okay, so let's watch. So I told you that there is going to be markers here, and you can see this says Coast Live Oak, and as we continue along this trail, you're going to see more and more of these markers. So looking up, you're going to see Coast Live Oak has many small leaves, and again, they're so shiny in the sunlight up there because they're covered with a waxy coating, which makes them drought resistant, which is great for California since we get so warm in the summertime. So the oak tree, many of you may know, there's about 100, 200 or more of these oaks, and the oaks are edible. They have acorns. No, there's no such thing as an acorn tree. They come from an oak tree. And the acorns themselves, of course, you have to crack open. The seed, however, is too bitter to eat right out of the shell. So you need to put it in water, leach it, all of the tannins come out and the acids come out, and it makes it milder. So the Ohlone Indians would mash them up and they would make it into a flour for bread, or they could make it into an oatmeal-like substance that they would go ahead and eat as well. It was a staple. They would gather them, they would keep for a long time, so even if the acorns, it was a season where there was no acorns, they had some that they had preserved. There's an animal that does that, the acorn woodpecker, and he will actually make a hole, put the acorns in really tightly so no animals could steal it, so that in the wintertime he has food. So this is our oak tree. Okay, moving up. Oh, forgot to tell you, it is useful. We got edible, useful. Useful oak is a common wood used for making furniture. It's a very hard wood. It's good for your campfires. And so it can be very sought after. This is a protected area though. Welcome back. Here we are at the California Bay Laurel. No, this one is not labeled. Okay, California Bay Laurel. And the California Bay Laurel is a big, huge, beautiful tree found easily in the forest. And I wrote some notes because there is so many things that the Bay Laurel is good for. This is a Bay Laurel. Your mom may have some of these in the spice drawer. And she goes to the market and she'll pay $1 something or other for some of these Bay Laurel leaves. Now the ones she gets to the market are European ones. These are our own native ones. These are actually stronger. So if we have a recipe for soup or stew, We wouldn't eat these leaves, but we'd put it in for flavoring because there's a lot of oil in this leaf. So it would help flavor the super stew, and it has a really nice flavor to it. However, if you're using the American ones, I would put in half of one instead of a whole one when you're going to do it. Now, the oil is so strong. Smells like spaghetti sauce. The oil is so strong that it's useful because it acts as an insect repellent. In fact, if you look up at the tree, you'll see it's very hard to find a leaf that has a bite out of it. There's going to be some, but most of the time you're not going to see too many leaves that have bites out of them. That's because they don't like the smell and they don't like the taste of the California bay laurel. So Native Americans would use these and they'd put them in their flooring and they'd put them in the weave in their roofs because it kept away the insects. If you girls were at camp, I'd tell you to put some of these underneath your sleeping bag and that will keep away the insects. Nowadays you can actually even take one of these and put it in flour to go ahead and keep out boll weevils. So it would be a good thing to put into your cabinets. So that's useful. Medicinal, the oil, if it is absorbed directly into your skin, you can put it behind your ear against the skin there. And when you put it behind your ear, the oils go into your bloodstream and they can cure a mild headache. Not a heavy duty headache, but a mild headache. Edible. They have berries on them, and this one, it's like a little green ball. I am not seeing any on this, but I saw one earlier on that was loaded with the berries. They do get a berry, or not really a berry, but it's a nut. It looks like a berry because it has a leathery outer coating with the nut on the inside. And those nuts can actually be eaten, but again, like the oak tree, they're very, very harsh tasting, bitter. So you would have to go ahead and put them into water, leach them, and then roast them, maybe with some salt on top of them. They're still going to be pretty strong, but they are edible, so if you are hungry, then you can do that. Last but not least, you may have seen bay laurel in pictures in your history book in the early Olympics. They made laurel wreaths for the winners, so I'm sure that if they had a headache after running in the sun all day, then that was probably very helpful. All right, onward.